the Bookstore Road for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is a trauma informed coach for introverts and quiet achievers. She is an author too, and best selling author, and the author of the book The Hero Within, Reinvent Your Life One New Chapter at a Time. No other than Miss Serena Law.
Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Welcome to Book. Yes, welcome to Book 101, Miss Serena. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Certainly. So I started off as a lawyer, and then in a very long and roundabout way, I've become a coach who specializes in working with introverts and quiet achievers.
Interesting indeed. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Serena. And tell us, the hero within. And congratulations for being best-selling author. The Hero Within, Reinvent Your Life. Can you tell us about it?
Certainly. The idea started with the remembering that inside every person there is something bigger, something that's more courageous than the current version of them. And usually, what comes out of that person is something that only shows up after they have been through something quite traumatic or difficult or challenging. So I went looking for people around the world who had stories like that. And I put out a call on Facebook and got all these responses back. People were telling me, I've got a story for you, or I know somebody I can connect with you. And so I interviewed these people. And out of that, I picked 10 stories to feature in this book. The idea being that regardless of where you are today, however low you may feel in your journey, it is possible for you to reinvent your life. And I compare it to a book. Just as a book is made up of chapters and a story has got, all these plot twists. So the same thing is with our life story. Things may happen along the way that are not what we anticipated. It comes as a surprise, comes as a shock. Sometimes it's about grief and loss. But when you turn over the page and you flip over to a new chapter, the story continues to develop. And so that's the main idea, that the story is not over yet.
For sure, the story is not over yet, people. Why frame personal growth as awakening the hero within rather than just self improvement? What is the lens uniquely offer?
Good question. I think self improvement is a theme that has been done many times by many different people. But what really gets people to change their lives is when something happens that they can relate to. It's personal to them, it touches them. It's something to do with the heart and the spirit. It's not the brain. Because our brain knows that we have to change our lives in some way. It knows the things that we should do and we shouldn't do. But that's not enough to get people to change or to take action. It's always something much deeper.
How does viewing life as a distinct chapters help people navigate change more intentionally or than a traditional goal setting?
Traditional goal setting is very cognitive based, meaning that it's very sequential, very linear, very logical. And not everybody responds well to logic. Not because we don't think logically, but because it doesn't touch the heart. It, it is something we understand. It is something we can rationalize, we can accept, but that's not enough to change your life. Just to see how many people who set New Year's resolutions for themselves or set smart goals for themselves and say, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to do this, this is the year it's going to happen. And by 31st December, or even earlier, they haven't done it because something else is holding them back.
How does the book challenge the idea that reinvention requires drastic or all or nothing transformation?
I think all or nothing transformation is one of the myths in personal development and self growth that a lot of experts have been spouting over the years. And I've been to a lot of seminars that are by high profile personal development speakers who emphasize that you have to take massive action. Now, the problem is, we ordinary people, the rest of us who are not up there on the stage making those motivational speeches, we get all excited and enthused and inspired during that seminar. And then we go home to our normal life, our normal routine. By Monday morning, we're back to our usual habits, back to the same old routine, the same old things that we are struggling with, that have stopped us, that we are procrastinating over. Nothing will have changed since the seminar. So it's not enough to just say take massive action and then don't give people a way to get there. So when you set the bar so high, it's easy to get discouraged because you look at yourself and say, "Oh, I was supposed to be 10 steps ahead by now. I was supposed to be successful by now, but I'm not. So I must be a failure." When actually, the more sensible thing to do is to not go for those massive action, but to scale it back. Make it achievable for yourself. Let yourself win. Make it easy for you to win. Like how, when our children are small, we give them those star charts to reward them for doing the right thing or for doing something to build discipline. Every time they get it right or they do something well, we give them a star, a gold star, right? So that's something we can do for ourselves as adults too. Instead of saying I have to be 10 steps ahead 1 year's time, why don't I just be one step ahead? And one step ahead every day, 1% better every day. We can build atomic habits. That's what James Clear says. Because over time, your atomic habits will compound like compound interest. And that's where your real change happens.
Very well said, Miss Serena. Very well said. What happens when people ignore the need to start a new chapter?
It's very common, actually, Daniel, for people to ignore the need to start a new chapter. We may receive a wake up call of some kind. Maybe we lose our job. Maybe we encounter some kind of illness. And it's an opportunity to write a new chapter, to do something different with our lives. And we see it, we recognize it, but it's too frightening because nobody likes change. Change is inconvenient, change is difficult, change messes with your routine. It means you have to go out of your comfort zone and do things differently. And people don't like that.
Yes, people doesn't like changes. What are the subtle signs that a current life chapter is closing, even if it's not a crisis?
I think maybe some red flags or even some amber lights would be when you notice yourself losing energy, losing a sense of purpose. When you start feeling restless, you start asking yourself, what else is out there? Is this all there is? And you can do this even when you are externally very successful. Because I remember in my 11th year of law, that was the question I asked myself. What else is out there for me? Is this all there is? Just following the script, following the plan A, being very safe, and doing the same thing that you've always done, and not trying anything new. That is the definition of plan A. So when you get a wake up call, you have a chance you're almost standing at a crossroads. You have a chance to keep going forward. You have a chance to do a detour, go off the trail, maybe go exploring, go for a little hike in the wilderness. You even have a chance to do a U turn and say, I'm going to turn around and go back now. I'm not going to keep going with this adventure. So you have a lot of choices. And what keeps people stuck is that fear of the unknown because we love certainty. We're very attached to our certainty. We like to be able to control, to predict, to know what's happening next. But when you get that kind of wake up call and you have to change your life, you think, is it worth it? Do I really want to sacrifice and give up all this stuff that I've been working on to go find this new adventure, to follow this new path when nobody else has done it before, or other people keep telling me, oh, it's a very bad idea, you shouldn't. And then we might listen to these other voices and then we decide not to move at all. And so that's how you end up not writing the new chapter, not turning the page.
Miss Serena, how do you help people overcome guilt or fear when leaving a chapter like career, relationship, or identity that Looks successful but feels misaligned.
Oh, such a good question, Daniel. I think the first thing you need to do, anybody, is to forgive yourself first, to have compassion for yourself when you make those decisions. Because you're right. When you decide to make that kind of change, that is changing your direction in life, it feels like grief, it feels like loss, it feels like an identity crisis because your whole identity may have been built up attached to something that's very external driven. And now you're going backwards or you're pausing and you're asking yourself, what actually do I really love doing? What do I really care about? Or where is my area of genius? What else can I be doing with my life? Or what's my purpose? And those are deep questions. Those take time to sit and reflect before the answers come to you. They may not come immediately. So you do need to trust the process, to trust that the answers are going to come to you and to give that process time.
Very well said again, Miss Serena. Very well said. What's your step by step process for consciously designing and launching a new chapter?
I always like to start from inside and then zoom outwards. And when I say start from inside, that means instead of looking at what are the smart goals or what is the outcome I want to achieve, I go deep inside and I make room to sit quietly and reflect. What are my areas of strength? What are those areas that take a lot of energy from me? What gives me joy? What gives me a sense of purpose when I'm doing it? What are the things when I do, I feel that I lose track of time? I feel in a state of flow. So when I ask questions like that, that helps me to hone in on that area where I am the genius or I am naturally brilliant without having to struggle. And I think that's a good way to start because every one of us is brilliant at something, but it's for us to recognize, to own that thing, to celebrate and embrace that thing.
Yes, people, unlock yourself. And how can people create meaningful rituals to honor chapter transitions?
Create meaningful rituals, did you say?
Yes.
Rituals are very personal and very subjective. So it's anything that is repeatable, anything that brings you a sense of calm, a sense of peace. It can be spending time by yourself reflecting, journaling, going for a walk in nature. For some people, it's music. For some people, it's movement, meditation. There are all kinds of ways that we can make a ritual out of something. And I think even just the power of the pause before you make an important decision, to give yourself that pause before you even react to something that usually would trigger you. There is an opportunity there. And I think Stephen Covey called it the difference between the stimulus and the response is that there is a gap in between. And that gap is where you have the power to decide what your response will be. So, that too, practicing that pause can also be a ritual.
Can you share an example of a tiny heroic action that unlocked a significant new chapter?
A tiny heroic action for somebody who is an introvert or a quiet achiever would be something that puts them in the spotlight, something that makes them feel exposed. So, usually, introverts don't like to be in the limelight for any reason, they like to be in the background. But sometimes they may be put into a leadership position, they may be asked to make a public presentation, they may be asked to represent a group, their organization, their team, to say a few words. So to them, by nature, they would want to avoid that kind of thing. So a tiny heroic act would be for them to step up and say, yes, I'm normally introverted by nature, I don't like being in the spotlight, but because I see the worthiness or the point of doing this exercise, I see what the benefit would be, I'm going to do my best. And I'm going to make the few moments that I have in the spotlight the best possible one, not to focus the attention on me, but to focus the attention on the cause or the audience, or to help somebody else, to be in service of something bigger than myself. So, that for an introvert would be a tiny heroic act.
Miss Serena, as a trauma informed coach and a best selling author, what are your short term and long term goals?
I don't usually like setting goals, Daniel, because I've learned from experience that my mind doesn't work in that kind of linear fashion. Sometimes when I set goals, I might not see any movement or any changes for years and years, which can be pretty discouraging. So now what I do is I set tiny intentions for experiences that I want to have, for the kind of relationships I want to have, for how I want to feel when I'm creating or working or coming in contact with clients, what kind of a person I want to be. So it's not goal oriented, it's more about the quality of human that I'm developing in myself. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Miss Serena, makes sense. And what would be your piece of advice for people want to be a coach, want to be an author?
I say if that is your heart, if that is what your life is calling you to do, then go for it. Go find out more about it, go talk to people who have done it, go explore, do the research. But most of all, listen to yourself, listen to your higher wisdom, listen to your intuition. If it's nudging you in a certain direction, keep saying yes, because the path will open up for you each time you take a step forward. So you can't have a guarantee that you're going to succeed as a coach or as an author or whatever. But if you put the intention out there that every time something shows up and a door opens up for you, you're going to walk through it, you're going to find out what's on the other side, you're going to be curious, you're going to explore, then the path will surely show up.
Thank you for your advice, Miss Serena. And how does personal reinvention impact relationships, communities, or future generations?
It's called the positive ripple effect, Daniel. And that is that every time we do something to improve ourselves, change ourselves, rewire our habits and our responses. It also changes the nature of the relationships we have with other people. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you're a parent, and let's say you're easily triggered when your young child is upset or having a difficult time at school. So if that is your default position, then for you, changing would be, let's say, can I be a bit 1% more patient today? Can I create a safe space for my child to express their feelings, and I won't judge them today? So when you do things like that, gradually what happens is the energy and that relationship between you and your child, that trust, starts to build in a very positive way. It's like depositing something into your child's emotional bank account. So you do the same thing for any person you come in contact with, especially people that we find difficult. And over time, what you've noticed will happen is you become less triggered and more compassionate, not only with them, but with yourself too. Because you realize, hang on, I'm not perfect myself, and neither is everyone else. So, let's give each other some grace. Let's practice more compassion, more kindness. And so over time, what happens is your if ripple effect is spreading out in the world. So that's going to affect relationships, how other people see you, your transactions, your interactions, everything you do will be touched by that.
Why is this framework especially powerful for people navigating major transitions?
I think it's especially powerful because, when you think of it, all of us are the heroes in our own story. We might not see ourselves as heroes. We might think, oh, that's the main character. When you watch a movie, the hero is usually somebody very powerful, very charismatic, very clever and capable, has a lot of skills, and I'm not like that. I'm just an ordinary person. But actually, when you realize it, sometimes even the side characters in a really good story, they have some strengths that enable the whole storyline to come alive and to be rich and interesting for the people that are reading the story. So don't discount, I think that's my advice to people. Don't discount the value of your role just because you think you're playing a side character at the moment, because you also have the power to rewrite your story where you are at the center of it. You get to guide and direct which direction your story is going. You get to add chapters to it. You get to add plot twists to it, and you get to shape how the narrative is. So you do have some control over how your story turns out. And so you can choose actually to be the hero, the person that is inspiring, the person that serves others, the person who is doing good things in the community and helping to shape a kinder world.
A kinder world it is, and very well said, Miss Serena. Very well said. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in each fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101, and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Serena, what's one practice from the book that listeners can start today to write their next chapter with courage?
One word, I think
Yes.
the word would be one. ONE, one. One for 1%, one for one thing, one for one step. Don't make it hard for yourself. Keep it simple. Make it achievable. Start with one thing you can do today, whether it's to write your story, whether it's to investigate how to become a coach, whether it's to reinvent your life or to change your career. Do one thing today that will move you forward so that you don't stay stuck. That would be my advice.
Miss Serena Law, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book as well as your advocacy to the world?
Thank you so much, Daniel, for having me. So people can find me on Amazon if you want to purchase this book, or you can find me on the Quiet Warrior podcast, which I host.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Serena Law, because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come, more and more empowering episode of the podcast itself to come. So, Miss Serena, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
Bodycom people, see you soon.